Mr. Sherman.
Thank you. One of the most difficult things for our intel community to do is to apprise will to fight. They can look at the number of weapons and capacity and see who can fight, but the question is who will. And they've gotten it wrong a couple times in just last couple of years. They analyzed the Afghan army, determined that they could fight successfully for at least, say, 4 months. And then they looked at Ukraine and they thought the Ukrainian people might cave in 4 days. Turned out to be wrong in both cases. That doesn't mean they're not the best in the world. It just means determining the will of a soldier to fight is very difficult. One of the things that strikes me not only about this evacuation, but others, is American citizens go to a war zone and they say, I just want to go anywhere I want. My government's supposed to protect me. And there are limits on what the U.S. government can do. So I put forward the SAFE Act, and I'd like to have some more co-sponsors when I do it again this year, to say that if Americans go to a war zone, they would register. They're encouraged to now, but we would require them to register. We saw 15,000 American citizens in 2006 in Lebanon with a lack of registration, and that was identified in the GAO report as a significant problem in getting Americans out of Lebanon. We started this evacuation, and obviously we're focusing on Afghans who are our friends and eligible for immigration, but the absolute core of the American government's responsibilities to American citizens and green card holders. Mr. Lisser, in October 2021, before this committee, the Deputy Secretary of Management and Resources for the State Department said that the withdrawal would have been easier as to U.S. citizens, and that's the focus here, if those citizens had been required to register with the embassy. You have experience in dealing with the withdrawal of American citizens. Do you agree?
Thank you for the question, sir. Yes, this was one of the areas in which my organization sought to assist and make the evacuation go smoother. We had an open intake form through which folks could either be referred to us or could self-register. Among those were many American citizens, at least about 88 during the 2-week NEO period.
If I can interrupt, were there people who hadn't registered 2 or 3 months before the withdrawal that then were seeking help and we didn't know where they were, situations where had people registered when they went into the war zone, it would have been more helpful?
Yes, sir. That was one of the primary difficulties. That's what make groups like mine necessary, is that data submission that you're talking about that could have happened ahead of time.
Hope to get some more co-sponsors on the SAFE Act. I've got another question for you. I don't know if it's come up here, but there has been criticism of the Biden administration for the fact that weapons that we provided the Afghan army we did not recover on our way out. So these weapons were spread out over a very big country, or a fairly large country, Afghanistan. They were, by definition, in the hands of armed men. Mr. Lisser, if we had wanted to go and reclaim these weapons and sent American military all over where those weapons were and demanded their return, could we have done that and gotten those weapons back without any American casualties?
While I'm not a military logistics expert, that certainly would seem just common sense to have been an incredibly difficult task as we attempted to retrograde from that country, sir.
Yes. The fact is that it's very difficult to leave a hostile situation and withdraw and do it in a pristine manner. We saw in Vietnam, and I know Mr. Ong's family saw in Vietnam, how difficult that is, and that was with a South Vietnamese military that was far more impressive than the Afghan military. But just around the world, withdrawals are difficult. They're never pristine. They're never organized. They never go to plan. And finally, of course, the Trump administration did not do any of the interviews to identify the SIVs, did not prepare for this withdrawal. America decided we didn't want a forever war, and there's no pristine way to withdraw. I yield back.